being a friend. Travel down the road and back again. Your heart is true, you're a pal and a confidant. And if you threw a party, invited everyone you knew. You wanna see the biggest gift for me, and the times I wanna say thank you for being a friend.
Welcome to Tuesday night. It's Golden Guys. We are here. Did a little scary opening for PCH month. Speaking of PCH, I'm going to bring in some of the fellas right now. There's the PCH. Tuesday night. It's Golden Guys. We are here. Did a little scary opening.
Yeah, what's up, man? Sorry, I had my audio on the other one.
Rookie
I think
mistake.
that intro broke my computer. That was about the creepiest thing I've ever seen. But yeah, excited for tonight's show. This will be a good one.
Nice. Hey, speaking of Mike, how are you, buddy?
Great. I'm looking forward to this for the last couple of weeks. So I'm just
talking about it. And now we've got back our guru friend, Golden Age Guru. How are you?
Great, man. And yes, that intro was spectacularly creepy.
Nice.
Especially when it's in your headset, like
exactly. And now, if you're talking about creepy, let's bring him on himself, the Blackcat collection man himself, Gabe Vaughn. Here he comes. How are you, Gabe?
Forgive me.
welcome.
Good having you here. So
Good to be here. Get this over
it's
with.
Tuesday night. We are just like the Golden Girls without all the sex appeal, and we're ready to get going here quick. First thing we usually do is pickups first, and then we're going to do the introduction to everybody here. Thanks, everybody, for joining in the chat. We'll get to you guys. Maybe we'll definitely get to your questions, though, whatever you have. First up, anybody want to show anything they picked up? I know DS does. Guru, you have anything from New York Comic Con?
You know what? I think I do.
Nice.
Yes, I think I do.
Speaking of, I'll be at Baltimore Comic Con this weekend. I'll be. I have a booth there with some of the guys for the Ringo Awards. I'll be working on the Ringo Awards again. So if anybody wants to show anything, I guess I'll show. I got to show DS's book first.
I'm gonna go get it.
Yeah, I'll go quick. We're not here to see my books, but I did pick up a couple cool things. I'll do the least cool one first. Picked up ASM 4 and an 8.0 off-white. I don't know. I had a 7.0 already, and I've been working on ASMs, and opportunity came around and sort of worked a deal, and I got an 8.0 now. So really high grade for this book. Yeah, man. So I got some nice ASMs this year. So I got the 7.0 is actually out the door, so now I got an 8.0. And then what I'm more excited to pick up, which is worth far less, but it's so cool, is this Boris Vallejo Weird Tale Macabre #2 witch burning cover.
That might be the first Boris painting I like.
But why you don't knock Boris Vallejo? Don't you blaspheme in here on PCH week? Boris Vallejo was one of the best from. He did so many creepies and eerie's of the great runs after the Frazetta.
That one's awesome.
That's a good one.
Yeah, I'm not a magazine collector, as you guys know. I only have one other one. It's Web of Horror 3, which is the first Wrightson cover. But I saw Pete Monster, Sean, who I think is maybe in the chat. I don't know if I saw him in there. But anyway, I saw this on his page first, and I was like, whoa, I've got to get that. So I'm not a magazine collector, but this is just too good a piece of art to pass up. And yeah, this is a nice high-grade copy, like 9.6 range. So yeah, I'll probably get this slab just because it's so tough to store anyway, like this. But yeah, real cool.
Yeah, I've been debating on slabbing some of my creepies and eerie's, and the problem I have with it is I love the fucking interior too much, and that's my problem.
Yeah, I love that one purely for the cover though. But yeah, that's only my second magazine. But yeah, it's dope. I love it.
Right. Doesn't Gabe have the original art of that?
I don't know.
That'd be cool if he did. There's an original painting somewhere of that. I don't know if it's still in existence, but that would be a killer piece to own. But
someone asked me what was in the background of me. That is the original Matt Bush painting that was hanging in Skywalker Ranch. It's now sitting in JD's basement. No comparison. A lot less magic going on down here. Okay, so Guru went to New York Comic Con. He broadcasted a few times from a great booth. My mouth drooled on one of them, and I was like, "That's so hard to find." And so let's see. Let's share a little bit with what you got. Oh, you're muted. Hang on. I got you.
Sorry about that. I just grabbed a couple books that really was more out there. Just move some
Oh
stuff.
my god!
I love this
H.P.
sensation
Peter?
cover. I hate H.P. Peter, but I like this cover. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool.
I wanted one. I grabbed it. No big deal. Another one I saw
I
was
like
this.
it.
Yeah, this guy there.
Wait a minute. Were they
Oh yeah, nice.
clouds? Were they harvesting
I know.
clouds? In
Copy of that.
What's that?
I know a guy that's got a real nice copy of that.
Yeah, I thought for a 5.5, I haven't seen a 5.5 really. I've always seen it usually more beat up. But if you want to talk about magazines, because I got a claim sale this weekend coming up, and I have a huge magazine collection, and I know DS, you said you're not into mags, but you got to check out these mags more.
Yeah,
the more violent Terror Tales ones.
I have looked at that
Vampire's
title.
Tale. I mean, they're just crazy obscene in hand, and check out this after this one. Check out this one. Look at that mummy. Look at it's just a beautiful cover. Look at that.
Yeah, those are cool.
Work. So, I got into this collection of magazines and really gave me appreciation for them more. That mid 60s, late 60s horror ones.
Some of my favorite stuff right there.
Yeah, they're really cool. You're so used to seeing vampies and creepies and eerie's, but you don't get to see those.
Which I love. All those. Knights, do you want to share anything? Not what you're eating, but
Yeah, I don't think I got much new this week, but hopefully next week or the week after I'll have something. I ordered a Golden Age book, amazingly. So
nice.
All
right. So what we're going to do now is quickly switch our mode to this and switch me out. And there's Gabe right there. So now he's on the hot seat right now. For those of you that don't know, Gabriel is the proud owner still of the Blackcat collection. Has amassed what I would consider some of the best PCH individual collecting base to go out and go get these books and collect it on his own secondhand, which means he's not old enough to buy these things off the rack. Probably one of the most impressive things I've seen. Like Lee last week or a couple of weeks ago when we had Sean on, and some of the comments was, remember, this is all secondhand. It's one thing if you can do Silver Age, it's another thing if you can do some of what he did. So I'm going to start with the one cool question that I start off with, and then I'll let everybody else go. What got you into collecting, and what got you into your collecting style?
Well, where it started was we moved out to California, and I was always a artist. Always loved to draw. Perhaps shouldn't say artist. I wasn't like being paid to draw. I was just a dumbass kid. But we were super poor. And, my mom would take me to the boys' club, and there I would draw things. And one of these other kids pulled out a copy of G.I. Joe 21.
Oh yeah.
A silent issue, Larry Hama. I was just blown away by what I saw because I had already been drawing little comics for, myself or whatever. What had happened was, do you remember? All of us probably remember, if we all came from the same era, the backs of the toys and the fronts had this beautiful artwork. The backs would show you all the extra stuff, and I know Knights of Old probably knows what I'm talking about with all those toys.
You cut out the index.
Yeah, exactly. You would see this beautiful artwork, and I would emulate that. So this kid at the boys' club saw that I would make these, and then the kids started asking me, like, can you put me in the comic? Because I would make my own. And so after that, I started saying maybe I don't want any money because I was an idiot. I would say, trade me your gung ho, trade me your snake eyes, your ranger, your whatever, and I'll draw you one. And I'll never forget the first time my mom came into my room and saw all these toys laid out. She knew damn well she didn't buy them, and I didn't have the money for them. So the only way she could deduce what happened was I stole them all from Thrifties and Sears and whatnot. And then when I told her, like, hey, nah, you know, got introduced to comic books. This is my hustle now. But the real thing that got me into it was issue 23 with Michael Golden that did the cover, my favorite artist of all time. And hey, do you guys mind? Do you mind? I'm sorry, I have a child and a dog here that are just acting like morons. Get out of here. I'll blow your heads clean off.
Cobra Commander captured, right?
Yeah,
Is that
exactly.
23? Yeah.
It was drawn so beautifully.
Awesome
RoboCop,
cover.
what's his face? Roadblock with his, he had a Mod Deuce in his hands, clutch, and Golden drew that Uzi perfectly. And then you see Cobra Commander in the cuffs, and he's draped out. I mean, he almost looks like this crazy Nazi, you know, like how you would think an international bad guy would look. Just super badass. So most of the stuff that I collect is Golden artwork. But yeah, that's how I kind of got into actual collecting. But for Golden Age, for actual horror, what it was maybe I was about 12, 13, getting into, like, you know, real music, because hey, there it is. Yeah. my favorite cover of all time. Super
Nice.
Yeah.
This is
Super
my original
underrated.
copy that I got off the rack in a 3-pack. You know,
Yeah,
remember those
I bought-
bags?
Yeah.
Yep. And it had 21, 22, and 23. And
So
I
I
still got it.
free from art college. I mean, I can draw my ass off, and anybody that knows anything about drawing knows that that's one of the greatest things ever drawn. Secondary comes to G.I. Joe Annual #2, that I've still been trying to collect the artwork from. Albert Moy refuses to get off of it. Exactly. You look inside of that and you say that that's not the best art ever drawn, you don't know how to draw. And then his work on the first 9 issues of the NAM, nothing comes near it. Yeah.
I always talk about the
Everybody-
name. Yeah. We
To this
I
day,
was
everybody all that shit.
Yeah, I talk to people a lot about what was my favorite book of the 80s, not, you know, non-John Buscema. And they were like, I said, the best artwork is start with the cover of NAM and go to the interior and then read the next 10 issues and then look at the interior of that thing. And it's the most ridiculous, complicated structure of any art I've ever seen outside of maybe Bernie Wright's and Frankenstein. That takes
Right.
the cake.
Is issue #8, The Tunnel Rat.
Nice.
I was with my buddy, one of my best friends, Corey Soria. We were in Chicago. We were going there to see Freddy Krueger get into his makeup for the final time. And we had drank a bunch the night before, and I just decided to stay in the room and do the Heritage Auction to try and win all that. And at that time, I didn't have very much money, but I still won about 3 or 4 pages. I wish I would have got the rest, but that is still the baddest artwork to me in the planet. But anyway, that's going a big circle. So I started getting into like, you know, heavy music. Megadeth to me was heavy, you know, Metallica, whatnot.
Mhm.
And my buddy said, hey, you got to check out this band, The Misfits. All right. The first song I ever heard, 20 Eyes, I was hooked. I started looking for everything I could find. And then I started noticing, because I would buy these, you know, or steal these magazines with like Metallica. And I would notice Kirk Hammett, James Hetfield, they're wearing these Misfit shirts, Sam Hain shirts. Same shit I'm into. I'm like, well, shit, they must be onto something. We're all into the same thing. And eventually there was, there it is. That's one of my favorites of all time, when he's dragging him to the helicopter.
Yeah.
So I finally see this picture, and we can get into it later. I actually bought books from Hammett because of this.
Yeah, I wondered if he's going to be in the chat or not.
No.
Right.
But I saw this picture one day where he's sitting on top of all these comics, just sitting on top of them. And they were nothing like I had ever seen. They were all horror related. He had a original Freddy glove next to him, and it was like, oh my god, this crazy motherfucker! He's got all the shit that I would love. I'm a Freddy fan. He had a Boba Fett 12-inch in the background. He had a Alien Kenner, 16-inch in the background. And from that moment, when I was like 13 or so, I thought eventually, if I ever win the fucking lottery, I'm gonna recreate this photo. I'm gonna do this. Fast forward maybe a year or so, my buddy, my best friend, we were both into drawing and this and that. And I mean, we weren't nerds by any nature, but we just didn't give a fuck about the normal social whatever. Like, we didn't give a fuck about you had to be the coolest in school or this and that. We were cool with everybody. We liked going out playing paintball, doing whatever the fuck we did. But we always chased after what we liked. So there were these newspapers back in the day where you could actually buy and trade toys. Like Knights of Old, I see all your stuff. There were these big trade papers, like actual newspapers, black and white newspapers. And they would show like Mark's machine guns or Migos or this and that. And the only way that you could do this shit is send a letter out. And I mean, it took forever. It was the same way that
I remember those. I remember those, but I have no idea what that's called.
I know. I would love to find like one or two of those from back in the day. And then like the same thing was punk magazines, Maximum Rock and Roll. We would trade. That was the only way you would get like the shit you liked. So like the guy had a Misfits VHS, and I remember I sent him like $60, and it came, 8 years later, however long you had to wait for it. But I just remember it was just that excitement, that it was the hunt and tracking it down and blah blah blah, and I'll never forget how many people they would always come over and look at my room, which would, again, I'm just going to pick on you, Knights. My room looked like yours, and people would tease me like, oh, what do you like this shit for? Or my mom or whatever would give me shit. But it was always funny because everybody would always
think this is. Look. What year is this, would you say?
Shit, this is maybe 1991.
Okay. And you're like still high school or something?
Yeah, high school. I was like wrestling at the time, so I was the anomaly of a kid. Like I was always good with women. I did some sports, but I was still a major nerd at heart. I loved the artwork, and I loved the idea of all these things that we couldn't afford when I was a kid, and me just thinking eventually I'm gonna get them all. Eventually I'm gonna buy them all. In fact, we had a guy come to the house one time to do construction. And I went out to work with this dude. He was a terrifying looking dude. Terrifying. He had like swastikas on him and shit. I mean, just like, you just felt like this guy's going to come and rape us all after, after it's all said and done. But he, after, we get to talking, I guess, apparently he's into comics. So at the end of the day, this son of a bitch comes up with a X-Men 2 and 4. And I guess at the time that would have been in a very fine. And I bought them both from him for $100.
Nice.
But my main focus, like I should have kept those books. Obviously, I should have kept those fucking books. But my buddy and I went to, and again, this is before the internet, before anything else. You really had to put in work to go find some shit. We went to some convention, and a guy had the 12-inch Boba Fett. It was $100. I wanted that from the Kirk Hammett photo, so I traded both those issues.
Oh man,
I don't know. That's a good, if you ask me.
What it took. I mean, now I have like 40 of those things, but at the time, that's what it took, and that's how this collection got done. Once the time came forth, was I didn't give a fuck what it took. You just do what it took, or what it takes. Yeah, there it is. You should see the one I still. I've got one in the box, the highest graded one still in the box. Yeah. That's why I say, man, when the time comes for my actual toy collection, I think people will flip.
Yeah. I can't wait to see that.
Nice. So that's how we got into Precodehorror. Did you ever get that Misfit, that comic with, what's that comic that has that the Misfits album cover was made? Because I like you know
John.
all of the
John, you must not know anything
The
about my
question is, do we ever
I-
when did you get that?
That was
It had to be one of the first, right?
Is it? Well, I want to ask: is the Misfits album where you first became aware of the Chamber 19 artwork? It had to be. That was the first time you saw a PCH image. No,
it wasn't. It was actually so again. Back then, it should have been. You're absolutely right. That's where it should have been. Glenn Danzig, to me, the greatest musician of all time, and a super great, nice dude that I've gotten to know, and proud to say that I could walk somewhere and he would know who I am. One of my best friends, Corey Soria, is best friends with Danzig, which is pretty neat.
Yeah.
So no. What's crazy about that is, yes, I should have known Chamber of Chills 19 from the Misfits. Die, Die, My Darling. I should have known it from that, but I didn't. I knew it from the picture of Kirk Hammett sitting on his comics, sitting on them, making me so furious. Like I would never sit on these things.
Yeah.
I saw it in there, and I was like, "Fuck, I want that. I want that Blackcat Mystery 50." That was the real one that got me into everything. That's why the name of the collection is Blackcat Collection. Yeah. That was my book. That was the one that was like, yeah. But no, after I saw it later on, I actually used to own a white and purple streak copy of that fucking album. And the things that I've owned in my lifetime are staggering.
Yeah, I know. Among the album covers or albums, like people collect records. That one's pretty sought after. I know that Image is has a lot of crossover appeal in pop culture. Everybody in comics, whether you're into moderns or Copper Age or anything, knows the Chamber 19 cover. And the Misfits album is out there. And then that Misfits, I guess that first printing record or whatever, that's a hot item in the record collectors.
It is very hard to find. Actually, it's on when I go vinyl hunting. I go to the vinyl shops or something like that. I'm looking for weird ones like I always do. And that's one of the ones that I've seen it a few times trade for a lot more than, people were asking for in the shops about 10 years ago. That price has just gone skyrocketed, but it's great. Like I said, crossover appeal, like Death Eater was on the Molly Hatchet album. Frazetta did 2 Molly Hatchet covers our Frazetta's done. So I always like that stuff. Now, when Chamber of 19, was that one of your, what's the, when, I don't want to say the first one you got, because everybody asked me what's the first comic I bought. Well, obviously, first comic I got was Star Wars 1. But when you go through your stuff, when you go to first comic you ever, when you started the collecting phase and with it, pre-slabbing, obviously, was it the Chamber 19 or was it the Blackcat 50?
It was both.
It was both?
It was both. So what had happened was I'd gotten divorced, and I was really in an area of right before she and I got divorced. I started I knew it was going downhill, so I started. I went to my first convention, which was a WonderCon when they used to do them in San Francisco.
Okay.
And back in the day, I had my own comic. And I used to sit right next to Bernie Wrightson, and we have bullshit, whatever. I had a bunch of Wrightson originals. The last one I had, I gave to one of my best friends, Jeremy Wagner, who's a great author and guitarist, founder of the band Broken Hope. So he has my last Wrightson. But I remember going, it was 2009, Easter. I walked into a WonderCon and everybody was going crazy, standing around this CGC area. And I didn't understand it. I didn't know what that fucking shit meant. But when I saw one in a slab, I thought, man, that looks really cool. Wow, that's pretty neat. That looks like, the old cards we used to do. So I like ran and grabbed what I thought was a really nice copy of A Tales from the Crypt, and just a couple other things I liked. I bought a Killing Joke, pretty much my favorite graphic novel of all time.
Nice.
You've got Michael Golden, and then for me, it's Brian Boland right afterwards,
Cool.
which came back as a 9.9. But it was like shocking to me how this thing started going. So anyway, she and I were, on the outs. And one night, as I'm trying to make myself feel better, some guy was selling a collection of graded G.I. Joes, which is what got me into it. G.I. Joe, a real American hero. Larry Hama, I just think that whole thing was just badass. If you grew up in, if you were born in the 70s, grew up in the 80s, if you didn't know G.I. Joe, you were just a punk. So I bought like the entire set, the whole thing. I just sat there like boom, boom, boom. I was winning each one of them straight up. 9/8, 9/6, whatever. And I started massing this whole thing. And I was like, oh, excited, like reinvigorized. So she and I get divorced. You get into like this little dark place, whatever. But I meet my wife now, my wife Jane, and she kind of gets me reinvigorized with just life in general. And I start thinking like, you know what, fuck it, man. I'm going to do some things that I've always wanted to do. I'm going to track these things down. Now's the time because you can find them. So a gentleman named John Butler, who's got a great collection himself. I'm sure some of you follow him on Instagram.
Absolutely.
I went to his place and bought Chamber of Chills 9.6. And I bought Blackcat Mystery 50 9.0, the Big Apple copy. And I gave him $4,000 for the set. $4,000. Right? And I know we all laugh about that right now. But yeah. I left there and I felt good about it. I felt good. He's in Marin and my gun store is in Petaluma, which is about, if you don't know any of these areas, it's about a 20-minute drive if there's no traffic. I'm about 10 minutes in. I'm feeling good, feeling all right for the moment. And then I call my lady and I tell her what I've done. And I just feel like, oh my God, I've never spent this much money in my life. Barely on a car at this point, guys. A car. And I'm almost, I hate to admit it, I'm almost in tears. Like just, she and I are like starting our new life. We're trying to move in together. Worried about where we're going to get money from. And here I just spent this money on 2 comic books. And God bless her. She was like, hey, if that's what you want, you do it. And from then on, I just kept moving, kept grabbing shit. Whenever I saw something, kept grabbing it.
Yeah. So what year, when you picked those up for $4,000, what year around was that, would you say?
2011.
2011. Okay. Yeah. I got back, I collected comics when I was younger. I think you and me are probably close to the same age. I was born in 75. So
was I.
Okay. Yeah. So we're the same age. So all the stuff you're talking about is the same as my childhood, the same stuff I was into. And then I got out of comics for a long time. I got back into the hobby like 2015 and I didn't even know about horror comics, or I knew Golden Age like Batman, Superman existed, but I didn't even know this horror stuff existed. And so it really wasn't until I was on a heritage auction at some point looking for random Copper Age Spider-Mans or something where I saw a PCH book for the first time. And I was like, what the hell is that? Because I used to listen to the same type of music. I was always into like dark, creepy stuff. And when I found PCH, I was like, yes, this really hits me right in my core. This is what I've been looking for. And so when I got on Instagram, I started picking up some stuff on eBay, and then I discovered Instagram, and I found a guy who got me on Instagram was like, yeah, check out this guy's page. I looked at your page and it just blew my mind seeing these books. And even back then, I remember when I spent $2,000 on a PCH book, and I thought that was a huge mistake. And I had like a knot in my stomach after I did it, then the whole next day. But yeah, your attitude towards it, like just fuck it, I'm just gonna do it because this is what I want to do, and just go do whatever I need to do, get it. Yeah, that's really That really hits me because I feel like, especially with some of this rare stuff, sometimes you just got to take a chance and go for it, and you just got to be aggressive and get what you want. And then you get a collection sort of like yours. Did you ever think, at what point did you realize that you had a collection that was valuable money-wise? Because you were just doing it because you love the stuff. At what point did you decide or realize, whoa, I have a massive amount of money in these books now. This is valuable.
I think probably when Pete, Sean, and I would talk about it. Pete, one day, I knew there was a lot of money in it when one day I was sitting on the couch watching football, and Pete had actually, Sean, Pete Monster on Instagram, he had actually asked me to buy a comic one time where a lot of people had, and people would always offer me like next to nothing for, treasures. And I would always laugh at him. But Pete came back and he's like, hey, sorry if I offended you, blah, blah, blah. And before the end of the night, I think Pete bought about $100,000 worth of books from me.
Nice.
And that's when I realized I was selling him, Sean. We keep saying everybody's names, Pete, Sean. We all know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
I realized at that point, Jesus, I was selling him my undercopies for $100,000 or whatever it was.
Yeah.
Maybe it was 60, 70, 80. It was a lot of money. $5,000 is a lot of money. You get to a point where you're just like, holy shit, you forget. And that's why I always try to ground myself with the fact that I was almost in tears, ready to give them, ready to go and beg for the money back. $4,000, and then you start talking about this shit now. That was the moment though that I realized I'm sitting on something big. But what I loved though was when I first started getting into this, I was going to go after all the things that I really liked. What had happened is John still there? Or is he dead?
No, I'm here. I had to get a beer.
So anyway, what happened, what really happened was I always like a challenge. I always like to be like challenged, and I'm insane. So a challenge can come from somebody that didn't even challenge me. So Heritage sent out this beautiful, I think you had that Spider-Man 4, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, I love that cover. And the reason I love that cover is I think Ditko did this amazing job doing 4-panel thing.
I know. I hate those panels on other covers, but this one he nailed it. I love it's my favorite ASM cover. Yeah.
And many Ditko things I don't like. But what I loved was Heritage sent me out this poster, the Gary Dahlberg collection. Do you guys remember this?
Yeah.
Gary Dahlberg had the best copies of everything, and they put it on this nice 11 by 17 thing. I hung it in my gun store bathroom to look at every time I went in to remind myself, this motherfucker put together the best collection. Fuck him. I don't know Gary. I have no problem with him, but in my mind, it was like, fuck this guy. So I'm looking at it every day, like, oh, it's so beautiful. But I still take it as a challenge. So then I thought, well, why don't I do this, but on a different level? Because I knew everybody had already hit all the Marvel books.
Yeah.
But again, for me, the only books that I ever read, what most people will never know, well, until right now, I never read any Marvel books, never. Except for G.I. Joe and Transformers. That's what I read as a kid. I was only into it for the artwork. So for me, I followed artwork. Michael Golden, Arthur Adams, Wally Wood. Yes, That book right there. I have a 9.8 in that still. I mean, when I saw that come out on the shelf, it was like, fuck yeah, I'm buying that. Yeah. I followed art. I didn't give a fuck about the stories. That's why when people would make fun of me as a kid, like, oh, you're some comic nerd, like, I don't know what's going on in the book. I just like the art.
Yeah.
Um, but my
Hey, come on,
favorite
those
was
GI Joes. Those GI Joes were pretty good.
They
they were.
good.
That's what I said. I read them
The
all
story,
until
yeah,
until about issue 55, and then I was done.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was the idea of winning. I wanted to put together this collection. So I started looking at things at the time that I started collecting. The biggest, most expensive books were EC.
Yep.
I didn't go after ECs because I couldn't afford them. So I started going after Harvey.
Harvey.
Yeah.
And people would laugh at me. They would literally laugh at me when I would throw money at the highest grade Harvey books. They would laugh at me. I remember to this day, one of the things that I still feel good about, but felt bad about at the time, was there was a seller that apparently had heard of me, and I'm standing right in front of him, and I'm asking him for these high-end Harveys, and he started talking shit about me, not knowing that it was me, right? And he used the words, I've said it to several people that know me well. This is what made this collection work. He said to me, "A fool and his money."
Nice.
And I remember looking at him like having a come to Jesus moment, like, oh my God, is he right? Or am I right?
I think around 2016, I was at a con, and I was talking to a guy about Harvey, about the file copies that were found in Phoenix, Arizona, right outside of Glendale, whatever it was. And he's like, man, and I was talking about some Harvey books and the Black Atmosphere. He goes, there's some guy who's putting out who's buying these things up, and he laughed, and he went to me, and he was giving you props. He goes, you know what? He's probably the smartest one right now in our business thinking about it. He might be overpaying today, but what he doesn't even need the file copy. He's got things that are better than the file copy. When that file copy came up, everybody's like, now there's so many 9. I'm sure you remember this exactly when it happened. And then in I'll mention his name. We were at Bedrock City. I was at his booth, and I asked him. I said, look, it was a Harvey book. And I said, is that part of the file copy? He goes, no, I'm kind of waiting for this guy to show up to get this. And I think he was waiting on you to pick something up. I says, he probably already has it. He goes, yeah, but, I've been looking at this book for a while. And one of my favorite moments about when I said, when this pre-Instagram and everything else for me, was I heard of the collection. And then when I got on Instagram, I started looking up people's names and stuff. And I think it was Gene who gave me your Instagram from Shortboxed. He was the one who said, I think he was like, you got to check out this guy's PCH collection. We were talking about DS, and I said, DS is, I guess it was maybe around the time we were talking about DS, and then we were just laughing about it. I was just saying, these guys are collecting some of the best stuff. And I said, when I would never have even, I said, the slab book world, I was so against it for like 5 years. And then I'm like, I'm an idiot. I just couldn't, I was such an idiot. I was like, I want to see the interiors. And I like the art too. I mean, I was like, what am I going to, I'm going to cover up a Gil Kane art in the inside. And then,
I was absolutely against it as well. That
nice.
being said, one of the things when they talk about what do you call them, pedigrees?
Yeah.
We discovered a pedigree in high school. If CGC would have been around, I discovered one of the first pedigrees in high school. And I'm not saying that, as like a, hey, look at me type shit.
Right.
I didn't know it at the time. So what had happened was a buddy of ours, his dad was a Vietnam veteran. And he would come to school, high school, every day. And he didn't have a lot of money. But he figured out that a couple of us like comics. So let's say we got $5 a day for lunch. he would start bringing his dad's Spider-Man 2 through 50, X-Men 1 through 50. I had all this shit, all of it. It was astounding. It was in a Foot Locker. The comic store that was near us, was giving him less money than I was. That's how pathetic it was. But these things were all in at least very fine. That was my first real adventure into this shit. And I didn't give a fuck what the story was. I didn't like Spider-Man. I didn't give a fuck about X-Men. I loved the artwork. And I loved the idea that this stuff was worth money. And in fact, he sold me Amazing Spider-Man 14, which my stepdad, at the time, like, just always thought this stuff wasn't worth any money and, would give me a bunch of crap for it. I took that book that I didn't want to sell, that I maybe bought for $2, and I sold it to the comic store that was also giving this guy grief, And I was like, what this is worth. At that time, in that condition, it was a $500 book. I got 200 and something out of them, and I went and bought a TV just to show my stepdad, look, this is what we're dealing with here. Right?
Yeah.
And to an extent, he's correct. It's only worth what somebody's willing to pay. But Jesus Christ, if I would have kept that till this day, that's a $20,000 book.
Yeah. It's funny you mentioned the pedigree, because I always, we talk about your collection as being a collection versus pedigree. And when you discover a pedigree, or when you're early part of a pedigree, the amount of FOMO there is on that, or fear of missing out on that pedigree. We just saw, we've got this Promise collection thing going on right now, and I still say we don't even know what the San Francisco collection is yet. We really don't know what's in there yet, because only 10% have ever been.
That Promise collection is
it's the greatest one. Yeah, that's top in my opinion, and it's just my opinion. My opinion on the San Francisco is number one. Mile High is 2 because of the history of it, but San Francisco because we don't know what's in it. When you had that original collection, and when you get there, I from a horror collector standpoint, I've always wanted to know, like, are you familiar with obviously you probably are, the no strand copies?
The what now?
The no strand pedigree, the one.
Howard Nostrum?
Yeah. See, those pedigrees are the ones I've in the PCH world that are the harder to find ones. I was wondering if you've ever had any of those, because those, I don't know how often they change hands, and I know that once they declared it a pedigree, I very rarely see them trade. I've a couple of times on the board.
The problem, man, is most of the stuff that I've had, I've gotten from places that weren't supposed to exist. And that's why I loved putting this together so much.
Yeah,
it's so different.
My follow-up to how you begin and when you did it, the hunting part of it, the thrill of the hunt and the thrill of the find. Were you more of a comic shop guy, a swap meet shop guy, a flea market, a garage sale, a pawn shop, anywhere and everywhere?
So my mom.
What was your honey hole?
My mom loved flea markets, all that shit, right? And she would always take me. But when you grow up or when you're born in a small area, like Grandpa would trade for things. My mom, though, was always, she grew up in an era where women weren't considered, equals to men. So watching her like fight with men, watching her get deals on shit, whatever, I grew up with her. So we moved out to like Sacramento, we would go to places. I would try to like barter for things for my mom, like, you know, like this is that type of thing. So that's my background of, I didn't care where it came from. I wasn't like I preferred to be in trenches trying to find shit.
Mhm.
But again, John, my main thing was Kirk's got these books that I want. I gotta land that. That's my
Can you
wife.
talk? You know, I can't.
Seek and
Before,
destroy, my man. Seek and destroy.
before we get into
Sit on 'em.
your stuff, I just have to ask, when you first went in there to his house, well, I assume you went to his house. I mean, he has got a reputation. I believe maybe he's got original art and stuff like that. Like, were you buying his undercopies? Why was he selling? What did he have that you couldn't get, etc.?
You're a sweet kid. Can I go take a piss real fast? We'll get into
Yeah.
this. All right.
Yeah.
Give me one
And
second.
would you mind if we bring up the heritage stuff and we go over some of the books?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. We're going to do that. Knights is going to bring that up.
I'm all queued up for that.
Yeah, we'll get that up. So you go relieve
Go
yourself.
to the pizza.
Yes. All right. We'll see you in a minute.
Yeah, think about PCH though. I mean, it's not just about PCH, but he's a perfect example of this. Is if you buy stuff and collect stuff that you think is just totally badass,
Mm-hmm.
chances are there's other people out there that also will think it's just as badass as you. So if you just stick to the stuff that you love and you collect that, you develop an eye for it, you get to know it really well, eventually you're going to run into other people who are just like you and like it too. And in PCH, that it's, you know, I got into PCH like 2015, 2016, and it boggles my mind at that point. I felt like it was already pretty popular, but as I'm learning about it at that point, I realized and learned that it was overlooked for decades and it was just considered crap and nobody wanted it and it never had any value. And it at that point, it just blew my mind. Like, I feel like if I would have saw this when I was 15, I would have thought it was equally badass. And it always boggles my mind that this PCH stuff was overlooked for so long because it's almost like objectively awesome and you just can't even argue that it's not. And it probably has always been awesome. It's just amazing to me it took so long to catch on as a collectible art form. And yeah, I think just because it's comics, I think if those were paintings by an artist or some other media, maybe it would have caught on. But because they were in comics, they're always, people think of comics, they think of Spider-Man and Superman and Batman and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That stuff just get overlooked for so long, man.
I will tell you this: when I first moved out here about 12 years ago, when I was in New York, the last place I went to, the guy said, if you're going out to the Midwest, go up to Minnesota, check out the story about the pharmacy. What they used to do with the PCH was every Halloween, this guy would take the cover off of his books, like Witch's Tales and everything else, and would put them in those cheap poster frames and collage them up and put them in his window. That's what they used to do. And I remember going to cons in the 90s, late 90s, and you could get stacks of books. And they had, I mean, they were like 20, 40, 50, 60 books. But again, I wasn't buying Precodehorror Hard. Not that I'm again, obviously I love that stuff. I was buying those magazines, Creepy Series and stuff like that. I was buying that. I was for the horror stuff. But I can tell you that there were PCH collectors and a lot of EC fans, big time, where EC was so far and away, especially Tales from the Crypt. You're talking post 88, post Creep Show movie, post 88 with the Tales from the Crypt being on HBO and everything else. That was the pre-code horror to get. It wasn't the, I mean, we're not going to get into Suspense 3. We're going into total 1947 to, Eerie 1 to the Code. Of those books, I mean, I remember seeing the bell for Witch's Tales 25 and looking at that like, that's fucking amazing. Why is it, and I'm like, well, should I get this or get, this book or whatever? And I wasn't into collecting for the value at that point, because to me, I was collecting for my personal keeping and stuff like that. Comics weren't moving like they are now. They weren't commodities like cryptos or anything else like that. But one of the the moments, I mean, Guru, you've been doing this for a while. You understood there was that moment that it switched. And right around the time that Gabe started building his collection and other guys were, the back walls went from being superheroes to being half superheroes and a lot of horror in the background. And I remember one of the first guys to do it was Harley Yee, who put him all up right behind him. And slabs started coming out. And I remember, I forget a lot of Erie's, the Dracula, you guys remember when I bought the Dracula, Erie was a 17. I bought I had a 9.0 copy. I have a 9.0 copy of that. And that was the one PCH book I had other than a few Tales from the Crypt. That was the first one I had. Then this one guy had this guy from I forget the name of it. These young guys had a booth, and they had nothing but pre-code horror. And the amount of people that were flocking to them and leaving behind ASM 129 to go after, Chamber of Chills 19 or whatever it was. I mean, that's what, 2013, 14? Was around the big switch. Well, Gabe, just to let you know, we were talking about when did PCH have that bump? And I'm thinking it's like 13 or 14. I mean, 2011, yes, it was there. But there was a moment when the back wall switched. And the back wall switched from being all superheroes to being, when you started seeing more and more pre-code horrors besides the top three, the Blackcat 50, Chamber of Chills 19, Weird Mysteries, was that 5, and then so on. But when it started to get real PCH, like EC books up and down, probably around what, 11, 12, 13 for you?
2012.
2012. Okay, yeah. All right.
It was or maybe 2011, 2012. It was
it was Harley Yee's booth, I remember, at a con that I was like, you're putting all that horror stuff up. And then Reese started doing it and a couple of the other guys. And then Vince started putting out that. That was, again, post-internet, but early internet for comics. I mean, early internet for comics. I mean,
I did a major
started.
I did a crazy deal with Harley, probably like 2015. I don't even know if he wants me to talk about it, but it was wild. But no, it was a Metropolis auction. So one of my favorite actors was Nicolas Cage.
Oh yeah.
And Nick had this amazing comic collection.
Absolutely.
I was always fascinated with the idea that, this guy that I liked collected comics. I was fascinated with his story about, losing his Action 1, his Detective 27, whatever. But I found out later that he was mainly, his favorite stuff was Precode. So I think Vince and Metro had this, Comic Connect had this auction, and it was Weird Mysteries, a couple other books, and they were the Nick Cage copies. Well, the Nick Cage copies also happened to be the Northford.
Right.
I didn't really give a shit about Northford. I didn't know what pedigree meant at the time. If I get my wife out here out of bed, she'll probably laugh that we were sitting in our first house having dinner, and I was thinking, like, I'm going to spend like $4,000 on this book. I'm going to spend like this on this book. And then all of a sudden it was like some asshole was going to 6, going to 7. And like, I'm just getting madder by the fucking second. Like, I don't lose. Anybody that knows me, like, fuck, if I'm going to play the game, we're all going to die. I'm going down with the shit, man. Like I may not be the biggest guy in the thing, but if it comes down to it, we're all going down. So I remember Weird Mysteries, maybe 5.
5, the Brain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Monkey Brain.
Yep.
Northford copy, Nick Cage book, went for some ridiculous number. Ridiculous. And I bought it. And I remember going on to the CGC boards afterwards and seeing people talking shit like, Jesus, what kind of stupid moron would spend this money? And I remember, like, I was excited to win these books, right? And I sit down with my family, I'm eating, and I start to pull up my phone and look up CGC boards and see all of these guys that I respected in the industry basically saying, who the fuck is this moron? This absolute idiot spending this type of money on these books. The only thing that gave me some sort of solace was the fact that they said, well,
he owns it.
Well, no, they said to his credit, somebody else was fighting him.
Yeah, it wasn't never just one
You
person. Yeah,
You can't go that high without somebody else fighting it.
right.
Unless the action house is
Takes
doing it. I
two.
believe that.
You know,
So-
being an original board, I remember a lot of talk about, things going crazy way back when. And a lot of the guys, I was butchered for some of the things I did. And then they would come me back saying, man, don't take offense. I'm like, I don't. I mean, it's my life, my money. I do what I want. But the best part when I hear that comment is there's always like one of the guys on there would always turn around and says, fuck, you beat me though. Because they always think it's the fear of missing out. Now you brought up the Northrum, those copies, the Northrum pedigree, by the way, is the pre-code horror pedigree. It's 100% pre-code horror pedigree. There's nothing in there that isn't. It's Eerie 1 all the way to 54. I forget what the last book in it is. It's something in 54. I forget which one it is, but it's a pretty badass pedigree. Just because of it's because of its specialization. There's very few that are that specialized. But the fact that it was a Nick Cage copy, and it's Weird Mysteries. Let's be honest, the Weird Mysteries 5. Whoever you paid for it then, it's worth 5 times to 20 times as much right now.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. It's in the top 3. I mean, forgetting the Cheslers out there, just the common ones. You got to put that up there with Blackcat 50, Chamber of Chills 19, and Weird Mysteries 5 have got to be together. So I think that's great.
One of my stories.
To get back to the
about when I
real
really-
story, though, the Kirk Hammett household visit.
But hold on real quick. The crazy thing was what John was just talking about. When I would go to these conventions, I would literally bring a stack of cash, like a wad of cash, like a baseball size of cash, hundreds, ready to rock. And I would keep in my pocket. And these guys, these older guys, would always look at me like I had no business being there. Matter of fact, there was this guy who I had just got done buying a whole pile of pre-code books from his buddy, the guy sitting next to him. And I wanted to spend the rest of my money. I wanted to spend the rest of it. And John, it was probably 40, 50 grand cash in my pocket. This guy had a original Todd McFarlane art from Hulk 329, 330, whatever it was.
328, yeah.
The very first one that McFarlane did.
Yep.
And I asked him to look at it. And he went like this to me, like, and that was the shit that drove me. Like, you're going to look at me like I'm some piece of shit, and you're 87,000 years old trying to hawk this thing, and I have the money in my pocket, and you would prefer to talk to some super sweaty punk with tits, baloney tits.
Yeah.
All right. That was always my motivation for the entire thing. Like, I just want to turn the whole thing around. And matter of fact, before we get to the Kirk thing, the real thing that I started to play in my mind over and over were the guys that turned the silver market around in the 80s. Are you familiar with that?
What, the turning of the silver market?
Yeah, so
Like-
apparently 2 guys started investing in silver in the 80s, and they turned the whole market around. Like
Silver
was
Age or silver?
Like precious metals
Silver.
or comics?
metal, the metal,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And they turned the entire market around, brought the levels way up. Everybody was looking at them like, what the fuck are you doing? And all of a sudden they controlled the market. So after a few of these guys, like the guy that I was talking about with the original art, some of the guys that would look at me and say a fool and his money, it was like, you know what, fuck you guys. I'm going to turn this entire market around on this particular genre of books, and you can all eat my ass once, you know, I mean, you know, for lack of better words.
Yeah. One of the, when you have that moment at a con, I know all of us have had this earlier in our lives. Now a lot of people know, some people know who we are. I got into that one time, and then I got a reputation of being the guy who brings books to trade, and I do that all the time. And I remember presenting a guy with I was like, okay, are you interested in this? It was a Tales of Suspense 39, not slabbed at the time because it was 99. And I said, I'll trade you the first Iron Man. I'm interested in that art. And before he even got a chance to look at the art, he goes, are you serious about this? Because I don't like taking it down. I said, how serious are you about getting rid of it? That's my question to you. And then he was like, well, I've got this. And him and I are, you know, him and I are friends now. And we laugh about it because we've done a ton of deals since. And I just spoke with him the other day. And this is a guy like you who literally had his wife meet a guy in Pennsylvania in a parking lot with a knapsack of $45,000 in cash to get a Tech 27.
Mm-hmm.
And he wouldn't go himself because he's like, I'm never going to show my face to these folks.
It was
So
to me.
they don't know me when I go to the con. And that's the way he did it. And he does it. He doesn't go to the cons because he doesn't like people. He's not a good people person. But when he goes, he sends his wife, and I have a great time hanging out with his wife. And I say, he brings his kid, the wife and the kid, and I'm like, let's go talk to him. And she'll turn around, and they know who she is. She's like, but they didn't at first. And they're like, who's this woman asking for this? And then I remember the first dealer came over to me, and it was, you know, a friend of ours at the show, Ricky Gator. And Ricky Gator goes, you're hanging out with good people there. She's got some cash on her. Half these guys don't know that. And I'm like, I know. That's why they're like, what are you looking for? You want, you know, that. And I think that's one of the best things about cons that I can't wait to do this weekend at Baltimore. I'm going to walk over to somebody and say, I might be interested in that artwork. You
Right.
I remember those days in California. I used to go to the San Diego Comic-Con. I lived in San Diego, and I'd save all summer long and then try not to blow all the money the first day. I tried to make it 4 days. It was tough. But there'd be these jackasses. I'd be like, oh, that's some awesome original art. I'm like, how much did that cost? And they'd be like, more money than you'd ever have, you know, say all kinds of bullshit. I'm just like, I don't even understand where this like anger is even coming from and why it would be directed at someone who's like
Off what
appreciating
you're saying right there. So that's how I would approach my gun store. Like when guys would come in and I would have this very expensive gun, I knew you don't talk like that to people.
Yeah.
You just so John, when I would go to these shows, when I would first start going to these shows, and I'd be so excited, and you would get around these stupid old motherfuckers. They would say shit like that. You're looking at them like, dude, like, and again, I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to talk shit. You're just thinking like, I guarantee you, I drove here in a better car than you. Just settle down. We're just talking about comics, man. We're just talking about comics, and I'm happy to pay you money.
I think lately, I would say the last 5 years in comics, that's all changed. You never know who's going to show up. I mean, let's be honest. The second owner of Metropolis hasn't worn shoes since the 75 or something like that. I've been to the Metropolis and I'm like, come on, buddy, put on your shoes. And
The what?
the Vince's partner,
Talking about Fischler?
Fischler, yeah, he doesn't wear shoes.
What are you talking about?
When I go to
only
his
talk-
office, I'm like, what are you wearing your
I can only
shoes?
talk
Oh.
about Vince. I have nothing but nice things to say about Vince.
I love these guys. Trust me,
Oh.
Vince and I love these guys. But just the fact that I went in there to look at Simon Bianchi art one time for the Doctor Strange book, and I'm like, you're not wearing any socks or shoes. We were laughing our asses off. And he goes, you just never know who's going to show up, man. It's just like the same thing that happened with you. Or the other guys that, we've seen guys at cons with tons of money or buyers that look like anything from a Wall Street banker in the 80s to a Kurt Cobain wannabe from Seattle. No offense to you, grungers. But look like that. And I love that shit. I mean, I think it's great.
I just don't. I think that a lot of these dealers are still here who were still the dipshits back then, but only because the people that anybody can have money now keeps some of these, asshats honest and more on their toes than they were before. And again, people take different to change. The collectible was way different long ago, and you were stepping into their collectible, especially if you were young. You don't know anything because what are they dealing with? You're dealing with modern books off the newsstand, and I mean that just wasn't it. I mean,
yeah.
So people would
stupid.
constantly ask me after I got into this hardcore, and Knights of Old tapped in on the Kirk thing, and we'll get into that in a quick second. But my favorite part is people would say, how do I get into investing? How do I get into blah, blah, blah? Well, I have dear friends of mine that know how to get into Wall Street investing. That ain't my thing. I have no clue. I have money to throw into it. I wouldn't even know where to begin. What I would always say to everybody is, what I did was I got into what I loved, and I figured eventually it would come back to me. So if I loved what I loved long enough, it would come back. I'll go back to the Glenn Danzig, the misfits of things. He talked about when he would shop his music to record executives, they would say, this is a wall of noise. This is garbage. But you know what? He sold out fucking, what is it? The Gardens?
Madison Square
Madison
Garden.
Square Garden?
Yes, New York.
Yeah.
They sold that out. They've been making millions a show. These same guys that everybody said, this is garbage.
Yep.
So this is the same thing that I would tell anybody. Like what you like and invest in what you like. But
Exactly.
Knights of Gold, you were asking me about the Kirk thing. What'd you want to know?
Yeah. I got to know, when you went there, was he selling you these undercopies? What else did you see that he didn't want to sell, or what else? Why did he even sell those things? And like, what was he into next, or like anything? It's just really interesting.
Essentially, what you're glossing over is, how the fuck did I just show up at his house and start buying shit? How did that happen?
Inquiring minds want to know. Tell us.
From a
You're
kid.
a cool guy.
From a kid who saw this in a magazine. Oh no, it doesn't work that well. I may make friends here and there. So essentially, it's one of those things like that 6 degrees of separation. So I'm gonna travel back to my dear friends Corey Soria and my buddy Jeremy Wagner. Jeremy was buddies with this guy Mark. Mark actually worked with Kirk. Mark was Kirk's assistant for all of his collection. Jeremy was sweet enough. Jeremy and his wife Kim were sweet enough to bring us to Italy one time with Mark. We all got to know one another anyway. Long story short, Mark invites us to Kirk had a when he was doing all of his Fear Festival stuff.
Mm-hmm.
He invited a very minute set of people to San Jose, the Winchester House, and we did this like murder mystery thing. We went through it all, and when I finally got to talk to him, I said, "Hey, I will be buying all of your books." And I remember he actually stopped me and laughed, and he goes, "You better pack a heavy lunch." I'm tenacious. So it finally comes. The whole thing finally comes. And I hope he doesn't mind me talking about this. I really do, because I would feel bad.
Don't worry about it.
Very, very awesome human being. But Mark sets it up. My buddy Jeremy Wagner's there with his wife, Kim. Literally like next to Robin Williams' house. It was amazing. Well, I show up with a briefcase full of cash, just filled with cash. Well, it was my life's earnings at that point. A Halliburton briefcase full of cash. I've also got a machine gun in the trunk just in case things go fucking crazy. My way out.
How fun was it to go to the bank and get all that money? How fun was it?
Say again.
How fun was it to go to the bank and like get this briefcase all filled with money?
I never went to the bank.
Oh no.
Nah, I had it sitting there.
Well,
Because
that must have been fun.
Again, I was born on a farm in Illinois to Depression era grandparents. I didn't trust banks. I put all my money inside a briefcase. So nice. This was my wife and I's nest egg. This was it. And thank God she had the trust in me. So again, I go there. I got a fucking big gun in the trunk. Like, I don't think Kurt's, I'm going to start some shit. But hey, you got to do what you got to do. You go there, and the man couldn't have been nicer. I mean, absolutely couldn't have been nicer. And if you put yourself in my possession, this was the guy that got me into this. In reality, I was humbled. I was excited. Kirk would never know this until now, but one of the first things I did was ask to use the bathroom. And I took a picture of myself taking a piss in his toilet, sent it to Corey. Corey Sawyer. Because Corey would always send me like cool photos when he was doing things. And then we got to negotiating. We went through the house. It was just sick. Toys everywhere, like the most beautiful paintings, the most beautiful posters. I mean, John, guys, millions and millions of dollars of posters everywhere. Beautiful. So we sat there and we got to negotiating. Well, the thing was that, again, Kirk had a Misfits drumhead, a painted Misfits drumhead.
Nice.
Downstairs. So this really wasn't part of the negotiations until the end. And then I said, I want that too. And we were actually doing like the back and forth, like you pass a thing that says a number, he passes one back, which is pretty neat. Yeah, and that's how that came to be.
Nice.
But just
so he had plenty left. He had plenty left then after you left.
Oh God, no! It was every cent I had. It was every cent I had.
I mean, he had like original art, and I heard he was a big collector. So I was just curious if he, was completely disenchanted with it or something, or he was just kind of.
No. So here was the thing. I came in with this and I was almost embarrassed because, again, this was the most money I'd ever put together in my entire life. I'm not going to say what it was, but it wasn't impressive to me for a rock star. but it was very impressive to me. This was everything I had, everything. Afterwards, we went to dinner with guys from Testament, Death Angel,
Nice.
via our friends Jeremy and Kim. Jeremy from Broken Hope.
I guess.
And through the dinner, I'm just like, oh my God, like this is the most money I've ever had in my entire life. I digress to the $4,000 I spent on those 2 books. But when I finally got back to the house, it was like, this is something. I've accomplished something. I tried to explain it to other people and they never understood. But I knew that I had done something, even if it didn't mean anything to anybody else. I'll sum it up with this. I used to look for a book called Crime Doesn't Pay 24. It's a horrifying cover where a guy's putting a woman's face onto a stove.
Yeah.
And her face burning.
Yep.
Terrifying, horrible stuff. They never considered that to be pre-code horror. Well, I started thinking, well, wait a minute. Most of this crime stuff is way more vicious than the actual pre-code horror. Going after that. Well, Kirk had, at the time, the highest graded copy, which I bought from him. But before that, I remember tracking this down at a convention, and a guy had a 0.5 that he was trying to get $7,000 for. And it was like, this is fucking garbage. I ain't paying that for this. But I paid a lot for Kirk's.
Nice.
It became mine. But I started trying to integrate this and make people understand, like, man, these crime books.
I love the crime books.
Are way more horrifying than the actual horror books. The one with the, what is it? Shit. Where the guy has the severed head over the.
Oh yeah, number 20.
20.
Yeah, number 20.
20.
Yep.
Crime 20.
You got Lawbreakers.
A Fight Against Crime 20, and then
Crime 20. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean, some of these are so
Lawbreakers
horrifying.
with the severed tongue and everything else. One of the one of the best thing about, like, I have 2. Well, I consider, I don't collect pre-code horror. I collect a lot of crime though. Wanted, Lawbreakers Always Lose, Lawbreakers. I've got a bunch of them, and the goriest shit is on when they do the real life story, the FBI files, and that's what they used to do.
Crime book.
Yeah, they're so crazy because you're like, this shit's real. It's like, honest to God, it's the Netflix shit, Catch a Serial Killer and stuff. And it's way ahead of that. It's, you know,
one of my books was Crime Does Not Pay.
Crime Does Not Pay is great.
Where there's a guy, the Lev Gleason books, like he just must have been the most scumbaggy human alive. It's like a gangster going to hand a little girl
The candy?
The kidnapping kind of cover.
Like ice cream.
Yeah.
It's so horrifying.
Yeah.
Like I collected those. And I remember when I was telling people, like, this is the next array of nightmare, and they'd be like, nah, this ain't shit. So I would start buying those in astronomical grades. And then all of a sudden those went for a lot of money. And when you started seeing those go for money, it was like, shit, like you're onto something.
Why did Kirk want to get out of it? Did he just have other stuff he wanted to collect, or is it similar to why you're selling now?
Yeah, maybe that's his business.
Sure.
Yeah, I don't mean that to be disrespectful.
Yeah, no problem.
But I think that's his business.
I know he's got a lot of other interest as well. Yeah.
How many books did you come out
But
with?
I will say this: at the end of the day, the man has one of the most amazing collections of anything. When we
Does he
were,
really
if you
have?
go,
Now, I don't know if you can share this or not, but he has an actual model from Empire Strikes Back of the AT-AT.
maybe.
I mean, that's like I joke with people. I said, "What's the one thing you want?" I said, "I want the AT-AT from Empire Strikes Back. I don't want the original toy. I have that. I want the actual model that they had and everything else. I've seen the video of it. My whole life was the making of it, and apparently Kirk Hammett has one. And I heard this from two other people have told me that. He goes, "Fucking, he got that stuff, and he's a big collector of this." And I've heard stories about it. I'm like, wow, that's badass, man.
He has Frazetta too. What I heard.
Well, the
Nice.
thing with as is, it's like all of us. I think when we're collectors, like for me, I wanted to put together the single best horror collection of all time, pre-code. But then you start getting into other aspects, other facets of the collection,
Rabbit holes.
spreading yourself way out. I think what it was is his poster collection is phenomenal. It's you would not believe it unless you actually saw it in person. I was lucky enough to see it in person. His props, his guitars. I mean, his collection is, and I don't want to get too much into it because that's his stuff.
Right.
But I think he would be okay with me saying that the comics that I bought from him, he approved of selling. I mean,
Nice. Very cool.
Get any of the books that he was like sitting on? You know, back in the when you first saw, you like, I want that book from that picture. Did you actually get any of those? That's so cool.
Yeah, some of
That's
them.
awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's bring up his heritage thing. Guru has a question.
Yeah, I just had a question.
Hold up. Let me dovetail off that.
Sure.
So one of my favorite things was he was doing a Fear Festival with Slash. Who else? I think Scotty Ian and
Queen's boy. Nice. Captain Queens.
Corey from Slipknot. So I
Oh.
took a picture of me mockingly sitting on my comics, and I brought that, and they all signed it, which is pretty fucking neat.
That's cool.
That's awesome. Well, you know, one of the questions I was going to ask is I was just curious. You know, you came with the intention to buy books. You had a briefcase, big, hunk of dough, and you spent it all. How many books did you come out with? Like, just trying to get what do you leave with? 5 books, 10 books, 50 books?
That day?
Yeah, that day. Just curious, like, when it's all said and done, you came with it, you left with it. There's the weight of the briefcase and there's the weight of the books itself. Just kind of curious mentally, just knowing how many you walked out with.
It was maybe 50 books, maybe 40, like really key hardcore books. But the main thing was that Misfits drum hit. The main thing, that to me. Like, I wanted all those books, but I was such a giant Misfits fan. And I had told him when we were at his little thing in San Jose, I told him, I said, I'm going to leave with that. And he said, pack a heavy lunch.
Did he ever come back to you? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, if he ever came back to you and asked you if you regretted selling anything or wanted, been like, hey, I kind of wish I never let that one go or anything like that. No?
Nah. To this day, I still have the piece of paper that he and I were negotiating on.
Nice.
It's not because it was him. It's not because it was Kirk. It's because it was one of the most important pieces of paper that I was ever negotiating.
Very
You saw the drum head?
If the person would have been Bill Franklin from, whatever, I would have still kept this. He and I were passing it back and forth next to one another. What people don't realize, how cool this was, how amazing this was. And I really hope he doesn't get upset with me telling this, because I don't think it's upsetting. He made it so beautiful for everybody. He had Frazettas hanging.
Yeah.
He ordered us food. He came in and was playing riffs on guitars. He could have not made this more welcoming for all of us. One of the sweetest guys that I've ever been around. Matter of fact, I still tell everybody this day, and I'm pretty sure everybody knows that he smokes weed. He offered me a hit of weed, and I said no. And I remember coming, my wife and I went to have dinner later with everybody else. I was like, fuck, I should have just taken one hit of weed. And I had already come back from another incident where Snoop Dogg had offered me weed, and I said no. And it's like, fuck. Even if you hate weed, just pretend to fucking smoke it. Like, just shut.
You gotta smoke. If you're gonna smoke, you gotta smoke with Snoop. You gotta smoke with the D-O-double-G.
Nice.
You know?
Well, we're going to get the Heritage auction up right now. And if you don't mind us going through a couple of questions here and there, or a couple of comments and stuff like that. And anybody in the chat wants to go ahead. This is one of our things we hope you don't mind. We actually predict, we guess where things will end up. And we don't have to say anything there. Sometimes we're good. Sometimes we're way off. I will tell you this: the Promise Collection took our odds, our prediction rates way down. And in both directions, by the way, because some things go less, and it's funny because when things go less, sometimes I think some of us are bidding on it our own, especially if it's a book we like. But some things go a lot higher. Like when I bid for a book and I said I'm going to go 4 times the last sale of a book in that grade at the most, and I was doing it as a joke because it's been 6 years, so I figure okay, it's been a kind of a market, and to be trumped by like 30 times, I was like, well, this is I don't know what to do. But we'll bring that up. Knights will bring that up. First, I want to thank you first of all for telling these stories. These are great stuff. Learning your background and everything else. And I'm a couple of years older than you, but I am the same guy who read that stuff. I was an athlete as well growing up, so I played the sports. And funny thing was, it was weird for us because we were on a bus for a long time without any iPads or anything else at the time. So we would stop at a gas station and buy comics. And I remember doing that for most of the whole late 80s, early 90s run. And honest to God, I'm going to tell you this right now. My buddy got the G.I. Joes. And I says, I'd rather watch the cartoon. And I love the Larry Hama artwork when he gave it to me. And I looked at it and I'm like, well, this is ridiculous. This is like Gil Kane shit. And at the time, I didn't really respect Gil Kane as much as I do now, but it was kind of like where my favorite was and who it was. But it's just a great moment in sharing the stories of how similarity, at least us born in the 70s into the 80s and stuff like that, and grew up remembering the Spider-Man doing his thing and you collecting for the artwork is pretty much, and that's what it was. Comics sell by the cover with the artwork. Let's be honest. If comics were just stories, they'd be shit. They'd be pulps would trump that in a heartbeat. But in real, Reader's Digest would have been better. But the true story about the art you brought up Killing Joke, and I'm like, when everybody asked me what's my moment, I said greatest writer of all time is Alan Moore. There's no debate in my mind. Alan Moore is Alan Moore. Like you said, Killing Joke is your favorite, right? Brian Bubble and stuff like that. My favorite is his From Hell, or what he did on Swamp Thing, or
well, you got Alan Moore. You have Brian Boland. You have I'm sorry for writers, but Frank Miller, David Quinn.
I like David Quinn a lot. Yeah.
And this is where I keep this is where I keep bringing up my buddy Jeremy Wagner for being such an amazing writer. But yeah, I mean, there's so many badass
Yeah.
artists.
I mean, a lot of people have been telling me, and I agree. We're in the golden age of some writing, and I disagree. I think the golden age was Alan Moore and the British invasion. When the British invasion of the comic world came into play, is the best since the Stan controlling everything and right there. And my personal opinion is that yes, Doctor Strange was great, but the artwork made Doctor Strange. What made the graphic novel so good wasn't so much the graphics, but they were true novels at the time. And I'm a big graphic novel fan. So I'm a huge fan of League of Extraordinary Gentlemen and all that stuff. And I kind of think that's like the unsung thing in the comic world. And it reminds me of, maybe that's why I got into pulps, and actually sat with a guy and read a pulp a couple of weeks ago. I said, I'm going to read this one. And it was a Lovecraftian one. And it is so much, it's like we couldn't, if that was in comics today, you couldn't make it without tremendous artwork. Like, who would you have to draw this stuff other than, whoever you had, whether it be the Lovecraftian stuff or anything else like that. But the way it works today and the way comics went was so, they really weren't, the writing wasn't there in the 80s up until I read that G.I. Joe, and then I started reading some of the other ones. And I was a big fan of Secret Wars, and maybe it was Jim Shooter who brought it all back to me. But like going later on into like the 90s, when the indies started, that's when writing kind of took
What
off.
about Batman the Cult? Like,
I love
Hudson-
that Jim Starlin. That was like when somebody said, you put my favorite two people together. And who, when I interviewed Chaikin one time and Starlin, and I spoke to Starlin, I says, that is my favorite character the entire time. I'm not going to mention him. We're going to talk nothing but Batman the Cult. And he was just like, oh, somebody likes it. And I'm like, do you not see that was so much better? That's my Batman, and that's a great one. That's Wrightson doing Batman. So, and
So
Alan
for me,
Moore,
that was the era that Batman issue 400. You had like 20 artists go and do like 2-3 panels at a time. That was one of my favorite issues ever.
It's a good one.
When Art Adams got in there and started doing his thing, Bernie Wrightson, Michael Kaluta.
Kaluta, Batman, man.
To me, this was the dawn of just badassery, just straight up badassery. And again, when I started getting back into collecting, I just wanted to go for like the things that I thought were so shit. What's the word for it when you're not supposed to do it?
Forbidden?
Like it was
Forbidden.
Taboo.
So like I think it was which one of you were showing the magazines earlier? I'm sorry.
One magazine he had the Terror Tales was
show me that
Guru,
quick. The Terror Tales.
DS had
There it is.
Weird Tales Macabre.
The Macabre.
There. Did you guys know that they made some crime suspense stories magazines after the? Did you ever seen that?
Yeah, they're extremely violent. I mean, they are obnoxiously brutal,
vicious.
I mean, like
absolutely
horrible.
Vicious.
Worse than
think,
these,
like,
and these are bad.
God.
Yeah.
So you start seeing these things that you just never even imagined. So
Just for
These were
Alan's
the
sake,
I,
who put this comment up, Alan, I agree with you. Swamp Things 23 through 51 are a must read for anybody who ever wants to read or write comics. Learn to tell a story like that is just still it's never been surpassed. I mean, we've had a bunch of writers come on recently that have done 12 issues and then quit, and we've had a few that have gone on and done their own thing. That is truly like Alan Moore owned everything. And Alan Moore is the best there is, period. And that's why he writes a book, How to Write Comics, and that's there, and How to Draw Comics. There are several thousand different styles of artistic drawing. Like I tell people, I find love in Stan Sakai as much as I do John Buscema, as much as I do Bernie Wrightson, as much as I do Frazetta. But writing is different because it's very specific, you know. But I love that comment right there. And Neil, and again, you're talking the British invasion right there. Sean P. Mother hits me with Neil Gaiman. Absolutely, Gaiman is another part of the British invasion. It changed everything, where comics became true. I mean, they weren't kid stories anymore. They were grown-up stories for grown-up guys that grew up reading comics and then expanded. You know, there's been nothing like it. Knights, are we ready to bring this up?
Yeah, I want to show them a couple things, and then I got my.
Do you want to be on the big screen?
Yeah.
All right, let me put you on the big
I think
screen.
you might like a couple of these things, Gabe, or maybe you have them. I don't know, but
Here we go.
some overseas. I know your buddy Glenn appreciates this. The original Devilman first appearance.
there he is.
Going a guy, 1972, and then before that, he did this Devil Dante.
Nice.
And then check out this sweet cover, which is awesome. From
Ooh,
Devil Dante.
that head coming out of the eyes is sick.
Very
Badass.
cool. Very cool.
And then I was curious, did you ever get into one of my favorite artists of all time, Bill Everett?
Of course, we have a Bill Everett. We didn't mention Bill Everett all show. We made it an hour and 37 minutes without Bill Everett mentioning.
Yeah, that's the one thing I have that I will never sell. I have one original page of Everett.
Nice. Very nice. I'd like one of those someday. All right, so I will start with the.
We're going to bring up Heritage Auctions right now,
Yep.
and we're gonna show you some of the stuff that's available for sale, and we'll go over it, and we'll have we're gonna just do our normal commentary on this stuff right there. Oh wait, hang on, he's showing a Bill Everett piece. I gotta.
Oh,
everybody quiet.
Not
Oh
Everett.
no!
Oh,
Is that
That's-
Faust?
flash
that's
page.
Tim Vigil. Come on,
That's a kick of the dick.
you can't
right there.
fool us.
Good old
That's a
Faust.
sweet Vigil, though.
That's nice.
Yeah, not an Everett, but I
No.
figured you guys would get a kick out
Yeah,
of it.
we love it.
I assume you met Tim. He's really awesome guy. He's hilarious.
Yeah, I go way back with Tim. Yeah. I won't get
One of
into
the
it now,
hardest
but Tim's,
working artists I've ever known, ever.
to me, Tim's one of the greatest guys who's ever lived. Absolutely. Amazing. Again, I keep bringing up my buddy Jeremy Wagner. He was the originator of Broken Hope. Sometimes I give him my my Vigil stuff, but he has my last Bernie Wrightson drawing that Bernie actually gave to me. Bernie actually drew to me, and it was actually an awesome story. Bernie broke his right hand. We were all at a convention together. We were sitting next to each other, and I'd asked him. I was like, "Man, I really wanted to get something drawn from you." And again, his hand was broken. So Bernie, broken hand, takes his left hand and he draws this beautiful piece of a zombie hanging by a noose. that I ended up giving to my buddy, Jeremy Wagner, who's
Nice.
over here BSing with me on the phone. One of my greatest friends, one of the best.
I think I have a piece of yours, don't I?
What's that?
I think one of the Wrightson pieces I have is from you.
You might. Yeah, you
Yeah.
might have a couple.
I think I have from a con in '98.
Yep. That's
Yep.
the one I gave
April of- yep.
my boy Jer.
Yeah, that's the one I got from. I through the line. I ended up buying it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. I wish I would have kept one.
Yeah, I keep that one. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, when I first. Yeah, it's always cool. That's one of the things, like the fact that I have a piece from him, and that's part of this whole industry and everything. But let's bring up this heritage auction while we have some. But
Well, hold up real quick. One of my favorite parts, so real fast. I had several favorite artists. Jeff DeRoe, and if you were ever in the industry, you knew who Jeff DeRoe was.
Mhm.
He did Hard Boiled. He did all the storyboards for all the Matrix stuff.
I was going to say he worked with the Wachowski brothers, or
yeah, exactly. One of the baddest artists of all time.
yeah.
So it was me, Jeff DeRoe, Bernie Wrightson, and shit. Who else was there? It was somebody else was there, but it was who was the guy that played Punisher?
Dolph
Dolph
Lundgren.
Lundgren. That one or the other one? The next
There's
one?
3 of them.
Yeah. The latest one?
Newest
It wouldn't be the
one,
latest.
Barenthal?
Before Barenthal, probably. No.
Well, it's got to be before Barenthal. Wrightson.
It was the one right before, right?
Well, Wrightson
Yeah,
died
yeah.
in 17. Wrightson died in
can't think of-
17.
Anyway,
Google it.
Thomas James.
Thomas Jane. Thank you, Thomas Jane. So the funniest part about Jane was I loved Boogie Nights, and I was giving him shit off that. But there was some artist that took a picture of me, Thomas Jane, Bernie Wrightson, and Jeff DeRoe. And to me, it was just like I had hit the cream of the crop. I was at the top of the tower at that point.
Didn't DeRoe do a lot with Ang Lee too?
What's that?
He did a lot with Ang Lee as well.
He may
DeRoe.
have, but the funniest thing about him was he was like he would just get shit faced. So I
He
had
was
asked him.
he was a recluse, I heard.
Yeah, I had asked him to do a couple of original drawings because I was such a big fan of Hard Boiled. So he did one of the Hard Boiled for me that was dope, and then I asked him to do one of Batman, where he was all gunned up and this and that. And the next day I came to the convention, he was like, "Yeah, I got shit faced last night. You don't have to pay me for this. This sucks." I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm gonna pay for you, dude." And I'm looking at it and I was like, "Yeah, it really does. This sucks. This sucks ass." And we just sold it on Heritage.
Yes, he did. Thomas Jane hung out a lot with Tim Brad. Yeah, Sean just brought up a great point. I was going to say I first saw it when I met to meet Tim Bradstreet when he was doing Punisher Max, which is one of my favorite fucking things of all time. It's greatest if you're a fan of firearms in any way. That's the best one. But Thomas Jane, yeah, he certainly did hang out a lot with him. Let me bring this up now, and there it is. So,
Am I in the right place?
Well, so here's how Heritage did it. It looks like they have a auction coming up that's underway now that's dedicated to the Blackcat collection, and it's mostly Gabe's books with some other PCH stuff mixed in. So it's a pre-code horror auction that's mostly most of it's Gabe's books, and then some of his other books, especially probably the 2 biggest PCH books, are in the November signature auction, which hasn't started yet. And I have the page up for that we can go to after we go through.
perfect.
But if you're in the PCH auction, it looks like you're in the one that's ongoing now. This is predominantly Gabe's books, but it's all PCH in this auction.
Now that circle sticker, that's the Blackcat sticker.
Yeah, it looks like it.
Okay.
Okay. So each of these are part of a collection. So, and I love the old school slab on this.
Damn, 9.8. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Because that's not a Promise Collection 9.8. I'm not going to say any more about it. But
No, that was
that's a real 9.8. Yeah, that's a real 9.8 right now.
So I bought that from a guy named John. John died maybe like 3 years ago. One of the sweetest guys you'd ever imagine. Any of you guys remember John?
John Verzel?
Exactly.
Oh, Verzel, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remember
John
him?
was amazing. I love John.
He was
and I bought his highest end Frankenstein book.
Where was he based out of? He was based out of
It's a good question, actually.
like I think Colorado
Texas.
or something. Texas, that's where it was. Texas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was always fun.
Oh yeah, his
He's
family's
one of the
super
sweetest
nice.
guys.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They still have a
So-
huge Timely collection, don't they? His book.
Before all this, I actually bought what is the book that has shit, help me out. It's got
Gerber Photojournal.
yeah, but it's got shit.
Just taking shots in the dark here.
It's a guy on one of the Fox things, one of the Fox cartoons.
No, like Mystery Funnies.
Yeah, but what's the guy's name?
Yeah, like Fox and Crow. That type of Fox thing.
No, I think he means Victor Fox books.
Fox Publications.
Yeah, Fox did a lot of those cartoonies.
Mm.
Mutt and Jeff, and
You'll come back to it.
we'll come back to it. Yeah. So, by the way, the Shotgun Suspense, where we call the Poor Man Suspense 3, I still say is better coloring. Love the color.
Yeah, what's interesting about this book,
While
this is just an interesting little bit of Golden Age trivia. The ECs, there's so many printed. It was such a pop. It's like the Cadillac of PCH. I think there's actually like 3 9.9s on the census for this book, which is insane for any book, let alone one from the 50s. Just an interesting piece of trivia. But yeah, Sean brought up something in the chat that's interesting. This is not a Gaines file copy, which makes it infinitely more impressive that it survived in this condition in the wild. And got a 9.8 after all these years. So impressive. It's like the newsstand on steroids version of back then. Yeah.
Yeah, there's 2 9.8s or 9.9s. Sorry.
Because
And it's an original slab, which I love.
the main reason I bought that book was because Verzel had it, and he told me, hey, this is not a Gaines file copy. It's an old label. And it's crazy that they would do this. So to me, I thought that it would probably get a 9.9, but we never tried.
I'd keep it as is, just because I think it's got 9.9 qualities to it, because it's a 9.8 from that day. I mean, every book I have with an old slab on it that's a 9.2 or higher, I look at it compared to some things that are 9.8s today, and I'm like, why did this get a 9.2 and that a 9.8?
Now, did you have a special affection to this book because it reminded you a tad bit of the G.I. Joe 23?
No whatsoever. No, none whatsoever.
Are we guessing prices?
I
appreciate
appreciate
on that book.
So if you go down
I'm actually over under on this. I'm going to throw 30 grand up there.
this one, that's there right now, go down one.
Oh, okay.
To me, that's one of the most vicious horror covers of all time. You have
The
a
Hanging?
guy
Yeah.
about to hack up a woman. You have men that are hanging. I mean, to me, that's one of the most badass
Yeah.
covers of all time. To me, that should be bid on insanely.
So the first one, I said over under 30 grand. What do we think?
42.
42. I like it. Yes, your specialty.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it'll go above 40. I would say 40 to 50 is probably accurate. It's
I'll say
just, here's the thing, it's so iconic
50.
as a cover that it will bring in a lot of,
About 50. Good.
yeah, it'll bring in a lot of interest outside of just strictly PCH collectors.
Isn't that only 3 Amazing Spider-Man 300 9.8s?
Yeah. By the way, we judge everything at what people are paying for 90.
Newsstands or not newsstands?
Whatever the highest one is.
The 9's newsstand was 20K.
Yeah,
Oh my God.
you're talking 9.8
I
newsstand.
sold the 9.6 newsstand.
I would rather have this than 3 of those. Come on.
But, you know, the only thing with people that are out there going to spend money on this book, there are admittedly a lot of high-grade copies of ECs, and especially this book. So it's not like the highest graded, or if you have the money, you can find other high-grade copies of this. That'll hold that. That's always what holds EC prices down. But yeah, I think 40 to 50 still. It's such an iconic book.
There's
Nice.
5 9.8s and 2 9.9s, so
Yeah.
it's going to be
That's my
interesting.
guy right there. That's one of my favorites right there.
So this,
That one or the
To me,
phlebotomy
that's-
cover?
Most vicious
this is a
books of all time.
This is Liv Gleason. It's a 9.0. It is a Generation 2 slab, which those of you who don't know, after the first slab we just saw, this was the second slab they did. You could tell it's that because there's no description of what the page quality is underneath it, as well as there's probably a sticker on top, which I still hate. The
Yeah.
other aspect about this book is, I'm going to throw it out there right now. That's the color contrast in there is really good. This is a really nice presenting 9.0. Again, I have pretty good sized screen, but this
Let's
is
say 20, 25 on that probably.
I'm throwing the over under on this one at 20. So
20. Wow. All right. I think the problem with this cover is that a lot of people
The
lose
reason
that.
that I would agree
hanging.
with that, is I think I spent about 10,000 to get that back in the day. If
Yeah, I
that
would
doesn't
say-
get above 10, then I'm probably going to go on a
You're going to buy it.
Chainsaw Massacre.
we got
I'll say-
there.
I don't know what that book's been selling for, but I'll say 16.
Well, it hasn't been selling because
16.
nobody's got one.
I was going
Yeah.
to say this is one of the harder ones of
Yeah, I don't see this.
of the Biro covers. And we know he did a lot, and that's why people are like, oh, it's a Biro. There are there's always levels within levels, and this one's one of the harder ones to find.
Way to go to
Do
the
you
next
remember where
one.
you got? Do you remember where you got that from?
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember
Nice.
how hard I had to fight for it.
I love this next one. An
Yeah.
85.
One of my favorites of the crime mysteries.
This one right here doesn't go under about 20 grand. I will be shocked.
Yeah.
Is
It's
this the
one of the
highest
hardest
graded?
books to find, period.
I'm going to throw it out there. This is a unicorn in the crime world. This is considered the unicorn. The injection into her arm, the comment and everything else like that, it's just right there. I mean, you got a skull there, Polanski. Just throwing it out there, Lee.
Yeah, that's amazing. Do you know, is this the highest graded, do you know, or not? Like, where's this fall on it? If you click on it, right, isn't there like a log of.
Yeah, I
these
think
fall?
this is the highest.
I mean, that's
Yeah, it'll
pretty
say in
freaking-
the description.
I mean, I've only seen less than
And
5 O's on this book.
it is a Crippen copy, which I absolutely
Mhm.
love.
Ties with highest graded.
Yeah, this one's gonna go up.
Wait, what? It says 2 and 8.5, none higher. What is that really talking
Higher.
about?
Yep.
Oh,
Frazetta on the inside, can't go wrong.
yeah, that's
Oh
interesting.
yeah, 2 and 8.5. Yeah.
I never seen that one.
That title is tough to find, and it's really gained a lot of traction lately. So yeah, that'll go pretty high.
Yeah, I'm thinking I would spend 15. So if someone's probably would outbid me, I would say that's probably 18 to 22.
Yeah, that's what I think too.
Oh, look at that.
This is hard to find. Now I'm going to leave this up to DS. DS?
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, this is another cool title, and this is one of the
That's
better.
not my book.
Oh, skip it. It's got a sticker.
Not mine.
Well, it's got a sticker on it.
Is it a different sticker?
They accidentally put it on. Nope. I
Oh,
have an
maybe
8.5 on the book.
Oh,
Well, that's
That's
weird.
not mine.
All right,
skip it.
do that.
Is this yours?
Yep. That's me.
Okay.
This is you? Okay. So this is an atlas here, and who did
Do you
this
want
one?
to get Brian from Heritage on here?
No.
No, that's all right. If he wants to join, he can, but we're okay like this. So I can't see who did the cover.
Yeah. You know how it is with these clicking.
Well, looks like it's probably Evercover.
I'll
I was
try.
gonna.
Russ,
I
Russ
don't
Heath.
know if it's Bill Everett. That could be a Carl Burgess.
So Russ Heath.
Russ Heath. Oh, okay, even better.
Oh wow.
Well, Russ Heath without. Oh, well, wait. Look at the lighting where it says "click."
Russ Heath.
Dick Ayers. I love Dick Ayers. Okay, so this is a great one. Look at the detail on it. Look, they even wrote into the into the file cabinet. You know, sorting out this aspect there. That's pretty good.
File names, yeah.
Morgue. This is a great one. This is a really great
Night at the City Morgue.
Yeah. Now, is there a story? I mean, we never really talked about Atlas with you, but did you have some Atlas Time of Fan? Was this one you sought out? Or was this just Gabe? I just want to know, was this one that you focused in on getting, or?
Well, the thing is, we found out today that Heritage accidentally put my stickers on a bunch of low-end books on accident. That's why.
Yeah. So what?
That's why I wanted to bring Brian in.
Well, are they going to? Yeah, I mean, look, when you have a collection sticker on it, that's going to bring more interest and money. Are they?
So you get a percentage of other people's books. That's all.
Yeah, but are they going to plan on taking those stickers off and reposting these, or taking them out of auction, or what? Do you know if you've talked to them?
Apparently, yes.
Well, tell me if anything's not yours, we won't focus on it.
Well, if it's super high grade, it's mine. If it's not,
I mean,
ain't
that
mine.
and an 8.0 is a pretty
That
high
ain't
grade
mine.
for that book. The other one,
8.5
Okay,
is
the
mine.
Weird Terror 9. This I know is yours because this
That's mine.
your Big Apple. Yeah. This is the Big Apple pedigree, right? Yeah.
Sucks.
Don Heck.
This is so good. I was gonna say this is like of all the Don Heck, everybody likes to bolt in the head. I like this so much more. This guy's creepy as fuck.
there it is.
Is that you?
Yeah, it's mine because
It's one of my favorite books, man. It's like when people always want to have their wedding picture, their wedding comics to get their wife. They want the Spider-Man or the Superman wedding. This is ours.
That is a sneaky valuable book in PCH. It's an early Jim issue, and it's just killer. That book will surprise people what it goes for. You just don't see it that often. I think there's a lot of fans of this book out there, and a lot of people are going to be surprised what this goes for.
Do you remember when Metro had that gym auction of horror books?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
4 years ago, 5 years ago, just like
Yep.
gave WTF numbers on all the horror stuff, and they weren't like 8.5s, 9.0s. They were like 6.5s.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I actually have a 5.0. I have a 5.0 of this book that I joke with my wife when we got married. I said that's going to be our wedding invitation.
That's mine.
Oh, I love a Will Eisner right here.
Spirit
If
doesn't
it's
get
in
enough love.
if it's in
Now
Yeah,
this,
if it's
this
in
was
nice shape.
1952, right?
What's that?
This is the 1952.
Yeah, that's the 50s version.
Okay, good. This is one of those books that they're not as easy. See, the thing about the 50
I don't see
spirit
this.
versus 43 spirits or whatever when they ended in 43 and then they came back in the 50s. This one, they got really good really fast. I mean,
Yeah, that's mine.
that's Will Eisner. I'm 90% sure, correct? It's a reprint, not a reprint. I'm pretty sure Will Eisner did that. I'm actually not pretty sure.
And it says Will Eisner signed, written on first page.
Nice. Yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
yeah, with Grandetti. This is remember when they started doing what do they call those? Help me out, DS. Those covers that
Gray tone.
covers. Yeah, this is technically a gray tone cover, whether they agree with it or not. The gray tones are done throughout.
That's a gray tone.
It's not technically a gray tone. It is a. It's got the gray tone pieces of.
I see it right there.
Yeah.
Oh, Spirit. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Grandinetti is
It's
amazing.
pretty cool. That's a signed Will Eisner right there. That's fucking amazing.
Oh, there you go.
Wow.
That's not yours.
No.
That's
That one probably is.
Oh,
That's mine.
where's Lee?
He's in the
That's
chat.
Oh, Lee. Is this one of yours? He loves
That's
skulls.
me.
What's the grade on that?
No, I just want to he's got a bid on.
I know.
That's a 9.0. Good lord.
Yeah, so
Oh,
this one, when this auction opened, this book jumped way out of the gates up to $6,000 is the bid on it right now. This is one of the, if these aren't sorted by the highest bids, Mike's just going through them, but this is current bid on this. It's one of the highest current bids in the whole auction.
It's Ajax Farrell, right?
It's a
That's
tough
my
book.
book.
It's super
This is
cool.
a very tough book.
Yeah, yeah.
Tough book. Farrell doesn't get usually higher than 3s. They're
Yeah,
made of shit. And they make pulps look like pieces of concrete.
Yeah, that's a gem there. But yeah, the bid on that jumped out of the gate all the way up to $6,000. So that's one of the highest bids in this auction right now. And I don't blame them. That's a good book.
And a joke I just got from someone, and it has an attached cover. It's the first Ajax I've ever seen with an attached cover in 3 years.
Yeah, I've never had that one.
Murder Inc.
Yeah, see, so that has a Blackcat. Is that not yours, Gabe? That's a 3.5.
That's a tough book, though.
He says no. He says
Yeah,
pass.
I mean, there's
There's
only 2 weeks left in this auction, so I don't know what's up with this.
If
I
I was
feel like this is something that needs to be resolved like immediately because this auction ends in 2 weeks.
That's mine.
nice. Was that Chesler yours as well?
Yeah.
All right, we have to go back to that Chesler because we love those. This is all right. Look at the triple crown we got here. We got Good Girl Art, Horror, Vulture, Animal, Kelly's. This is a great book. I actually thought Chamber Chills 21 is badass, but it's some ridiculously high grade. Right? What's the pedigree on that? Oh, file copy Harvey.
Yeah, it's a file copy, which means it's probably high grade, creamed off white. That's
It might not be the highest grade either. For those books.
probably not, but
Let's be honest. It's well done. Yeah. Well, actually, I was thinking about asking you as everything Blackcat and you're a big Harvey guy. Do you like the Bob Powell?
Ooh.
What were you saying? You wanted
are you a big fan of Bob Powell as well, or?
Oh, there you go.
That's nice.
That's a good one. That's a Ditko cover.
I was going to say that's the Ditko worm.
Yeah, he put his signature on the billboard on top of the factory. Very cool. He incorporated his signature into the art. And I actually, at one point, had a full run of this title.
I actually know somebody bidding on this right now.
Yeah, I had a full run. When I got into PCH, I decided to try to get a full run of a title, and this was the first title that got me into PCH. So I tried to get a full run of it, and I did, and it was all in like fine range too. It was really nice. And this is one of the bigger books in that run. And yeah, pretty cool. Ditko did most of the end run of that title, other than number 16. He did 12 through.
You started with 12, right?
I always thought a good
Yeah,
book.
12 was the first ever Ditko cover on a comic.
Hang on, number 3 of what's that title?
That Mystery Tales is a big book too.
Yeah, that Mystery Tales is a big book. Harry Anderson.
Oh, show that one.
In an 8.5. Geez, yeah, that's a really good copy there.
Is this yours?
Yeah, are you gonna miss?
Mine.
Are you gonna miss any book? Is there any book where you're just gonna miss or already miss?
Well, yeah, man, I'll miss everything.
You miss all of it. There's nothing more that stands out than the other. You know,
I'll 100% miss everything that was Harvey. I'll miss Tomb of Terror 15. I'll miss Chamber of Chills 19. Blackcat 50.
Yeah, the classics.
Chamber 20.
I wanted to ask you, Gabe, since you're a big Blackcat or a big Harvey fan, are you a big Bob Powell fan?
Oh yeah.
All right, good. Just making, I was Bob Powell original art comes around once in a while.
Well, at least you kept those suspense number 3s, right?
Good move. Is there a Mr. Mystery 12 in this or Venus 19?
I didn't see a Venus 19. There is a Mr. Mystery 12, but I think it might be in the signature auction.
Okay.
Because I have the page up and it is.
Why don't you tell us if there's a book you want us to like center on or something?
Well, for me, I loved the crime mysteries. The very first one that I went insane on was that Adventures into Mystery that was owned by Nick Cage. I loved that book. Yeah, right there.
I love the Ken Bald. I love that Ken Bald cover, man.
Yeah, I love that book, man. I think that's super underrated.
Yeah, all Ken Bald is underrated, even though he did
anything Haunted Thrills was underrated. I don't know, man.
8.5.
Ajax Farrell.
Oh, I like this one.
The Bill Everett. This is when we did our favorite covers by individual artists. When we did our Rushmore artists, this was my number 1 Bill Everett cover.
I love that cover.
Yeah,
because I couldn't do, Marvel Mystery 3, but this is I couldn't because I just talked about it last week, though the week before. So this was my number 1 Bill Everett cover.
That's gonna go strong.
Yeah, I think. Look, as a PCH fan, when I look through this auction, there are a couple standouts. Like all these books are awesome. Okay, I like PCH. I mean, it's in my name. Gabe loves all this. All these books are awesome. There's a couple standouts. This is at the top of the list. This Mystic 18. One of the absolute best in this auction is this book. And that copy is so solid. It's so bright. I mean, the grade alone is nice, but I mean, the colors on this thing, this is a staggeringly awesome copy of this book.
It is my favorite Bill Everett work.
Guys, hold up. You're asking me specific questions about my favorite books. Every one of these books are my favorites.
Yeah.
Like I love this book, this Mystic book.
That's my favorite.
And I can tell you when I bought it. I bought it on a Christmas Eve. I felt like I spent too much. I grabbed it because I loved it. Like these were all my favorite books. I can't stand to see them being sold. I hate it. The whole thing. Well, no, but every time you guys laugh, every time
it'll go to a good home, though.
No, we get it. We get it, though.
It's a nervous laugh because we know we'll have to do it someday.
Gabe, I sold my FF1 that I had since I was 19 years old. I sold it when I was 44 years old because 43 years old because my wife comes down. Well, my wife says, I'm pregnant. We need to get an SUV. And I said, go get one. Take this and go get one. Pretty much is what I did. said I made a deal with a guy for my FF1 5.0, and we got an SUV was not a current SUV you can buy with a 5.0.
And now that SUV is worth, oh
It's
god,
gone now I bought a hybrid because I can't afford gas anymore. And I'm being green.
Do you have a Voodoo Annual 1? Or just Voodoo Annual, I guess? There's only one, I believe.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the mystery book.
I'm curious to see what that goes for.
Yeah, there's one in here. That's one of, me and Jeff.
Well, show that chilling. Throw that chilling.
all right, okay.
I couldn't hear you. What you said, yes?
Yeah, so you and me have talked about that Voodoo Annual before, and when we looked it up, there were surprisingly more on the census than we thought for a book that never shows up. It's considered
So
one
that
of their-
thing right there, guys,
This book is really hard to find.
that's not my book. That's not mine.
All right.
All right.
If you ask Brian from Heritage, that's not
Screw
my
that
book. Mine is a 7.5. I have the
Where is that
nicest one. What's that?
Oh, let's get.
Hey, which ones of these were the hardest to get?
None of those are mine. The ones that are really, really high up are mine.
Yeah, there's a chilling
Right there.
16 and 7.5 is in the signature auction. But both, so
Apparently, a bunch of the ones were accidentally put under mine.
You want to go to the signature auction?
Well, I could go with the highest graded in this auction.
All right, let's start that then.
That's mine. Mine.
Yeah.
Mine.
that's the book that got me into PCH.
Whoa!
If it's super high, it's mine.
Is this
Yeah.
yours?
Yeah, that's mine.
That might be my screenshot for this. That's a nice Blackcat.
But apparently,
Did you always
what happened,
collect?
they started putting my stickers on all the lower end shit.
That's dumb.
Well, I'm just going to say they need to get that. I mean, I'm sure you're talking to Brian about it, obviously. I hope they're going to fix this, but they need to get those stickers off of those books.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
because-
no, he's already on it.
Yeah. All right.
Did you always only get highest graded? Like, when you first started, did you buy, just lower copies of this, or what happened? Did you only just buy?
It went to first grade.
Wow.
Gabe, I got to run,
Yeah,
man. It's been a pleasure. Good luck with the auction, my friend.
Thank you, Jeff.
You guys have a good night.
Oh, I love
Thank you
this
so
one.
much.
See you, Jeff.
See you, buddy.
I love this one. This is one of the real scary ones to me, just because it's really just weird.
Well, it's from
It's unsettling.
Go back out a second here. Can you click on that one?
Which was
That's
strange.
mine.
Oh, it is the River City pedigree. I did you buy this book in 2014?
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a series of.
This book. I remember this book. Man, punch myself to this day. You got a pretty
Keep
good deal
going.
on that.
That's a William
Yeah,
Eckering
yeah.
cover, right?
Shit ton
Yeah.
on that.
I liked it. I almost bought it because of the artist on it and everything else, but it kind of reminded me of other stuff. Let's show some other stuff. I love that book. It's embarrassing me. I don't know. I didn't own it. You might have outbid me by like $15. I think I ended up with a FF48 that day. Kid you not. It was bad.
Mine.
Tomb of Terror. Such a
How
good
many
one.
books did you put in?
I don't know. They just they took all my shit.
Here's the Crowley copy. But bring up that Terror. Beware Terror. The
If
faucet.
it's super high end, it's mine.
No, the one below it.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, that's
I
mine.
bet.
The one below it is a faucet. This is a Harvey.
That's pretty cool, though.
And I have the original art for that too.
Yeah, that's in the signature auction. I think.
Let's do the that one.
Ooh, yeah, that's a good one.
This
Mine.
one. This is an underrated, one of my favorite faucet books of all time.
Well, I hope you're buying something good, Gabe, with all this money, because shit.
Gabe, do you remember getting this? Because this is a tough book to find.
Yeah, I bought that from Kurt.
Oh, nice. That's a Crowley copy? Nice.
Mhm.
No, it's a Hammett copy.
Uh, that's gorgeous. That's one of my hard to find books that I always brought up. DS, do you follow that title on Fawcett?
Yeah, I like that. The last issue in the title is my favorite and probably the best one, Beware Terror Tales 8.
Yep.
But yeah, it's a decent title.
Oh, I don't remember seeing this before. That's pretty cool.
That's mine.
That's
Well, how about this? We could do this all night. Do you guys have any more questions?
Let me
Yeah,
see.
I'd like to know, like, some of us already know, I already know, but tell us, all right, so the big question is, why did you decide to sell everything? Because you have this kick-ass collection, the highest graded copies, and it's it's clearly the best PCH collection ever assembled. And why are you selling? Like, why would you part with these? Let us know what's up with that.
Wonderful question. So I got tired of being in Northern California, waiting for all these books to burn. Just got tired of it. So I figured we might as well sell it all.
Yeah, have you had you had close calls with forest fires that like scared the crap out of you about this collection? You're like, I need to get rid of it before I lose it.
Did you hear the 2017 fire?
Yeah.
I mean, I know there's a lot of fires out there, but what is that? Yeah, well, how did that affect you? Like that come right up to your house or what?
The 2017 fire essentially took my mom's house out, like straight up, right up the hill. And from then on, we've been waiting for our house to just burn to the ground. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of wanted to keep everything, but we're Northern California, man. It sucks. Like you just keep waiting on all your shit to burn to the ground.
Is this the one, DS?
What's that?
I'm just trying to get to the.
I already got the page up.
Okay, yeah, you do it.
I can run through these pretty quick.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, to me, I just can't stand the idea of even if you have insurance on all this shit, if it all gets burned to the ground, it just sucks. It's horrible.
It's one of those things that, and I don't know if you think about this, but I always, like when I had that pulp collection, I discovered it had to go in collectors and people's hands that wanted it because it had to be done. It's just, I fear for, fire and everything else like that. But we value our personal collections more than anybody else will because of our personal intake in it. And when we part with it, because I've done it, I've had to part with it for financial reasons, because I wasn't prepared for, or I didn't want to get rid of X, I'd rather get rid of Y, and I made the wrong decision. When we make those decisions, we make them with our heart, and we don't make them. And it's the best way to make the decisions. We buy with our heart, we sell with our heart, and I think that's the best advice I give everybody is what would I do? What's it? I get this all the time. Would you buy this book? Is your heart into it or not? If your heart's not into it, why are you buying it?
Let me interrupt you, John.
Where
Where you're at, John. For some of us, where we're at, we don't have much of a choice. It's, do you want to keep doing this every year and have all this amazing crap waiting for this, nonsense fire coming to take away? So Knights of Old over there, let me just ask you, because you have this amazing collection. What if each year we said to you, hey, it's coming, homie. Are you ready to rock? Are you ready to give it up? Would you do it?
I know what you mean, and I feel like the more you get, the worse the closer you get to that feeling, and it's not good.
But where do you live?
Seattle.
Seattle. So are you waiting for a big wave of
The big
fire
earthquake,
to take it out?
earthquake, fires, and then a tsunami is going to hit us.
Right.
So
For us, that's
We have
just what
tornadoes.
I constantly think about. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just tired of thinking about it, man. Tired.
I mean, it's funny because I was thinking about this not too long ago. It was like there's a certain price point, and it changes as you grow and whatever, how much money you make or whatever. But there's a certain price point where you're just like, it just doesn't feel. It's just a little sketchy. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like you're touching in onto some of that. Where you just
it makes perfect sense.
You don't feel good.
Yeah, I mean it's a massive risk and it weighs on you, and it makes perfect sense. I think that's definitely reasonable.
Because I always approach all this stuff I buy, whereas like if someday I could maybe get half back, I'll be okay with that.
Well, our biggest fear is that something bad happens to us and our families sell it for what they think they paid for it, what we paid for it. I mean, I'm always fearful when like something happened. I say, listen, if I go away, you don't sell that. You get somebody to broker this deal for you. And she's like, oh, that's not a big deal. I'm like, you have no idea what is sitting in some of these closets, Like I have things in closets. I'm like, I don't even put out for display. I'm like, well, that's a movie prop. Oh, that's cool. I'm like, well, don't get rid of that. Get rid of that first.
But did you keep any comics? You must have kept a couple, some comics, right? Or none.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, yeah.
Good for you.
Because you got to have at least what you could grab and run away with.
So hold on, guys. John, DC, the man that I absolutely connect with most is Kings of Old. Knights of Old. I'm sorry. He and I.
Toys.
Yeah. No, I mean, we're all collectors. We're all absolute collectors. To this day, I want people to come to us. I don't want us to come to them. I want people to come to us. And what I love is, again, and I'm so sorry, buddy, Knights of Old. What's your full name again?
Michael.
I love looking at Michael's collection. I love looking at DC's comics collection. I love looking at JD's collection, John's collection. We're all collectors. I love this shit. I may be getting out of one thing, but you guys have no clue how much stuff I still have. My absolute crazy collection of crazy shit.
Hey, are you going to keep your IG page up with all the books on there still?
Possibly.
Yeah, I think you should, because when I got into PCH and I found Instagram, it was your page and Sean's page were the two pages I went to scroll through. And it was really like the research, and that's what helped me get interested and discover a lot of stuff. So I know your page is a great resource at this point, honestly, just to scroll through and see books, because not everybody knows these. And people get interested. You can just scroll through your page and discover books that you wouldn't otherwise even know exist. So, yeah, whatever you decide to do is cool. I've enjoyed your page, and I know others will find it very useful and enjoyable. So I hope you keep it, but whatever you decide is cool, obviously. But I just want you to know that your page has touched me as a collector, and my heart was in PCH primarily for so long, and your page was such a great resource. I loved it.
I love seeing Knights of Old's page, with that shit, because if you've ever looked at my full collection, you've seen all the Shogun shit, man. I think like I'm just so excited to see all of us together.
I look forward to seeing that stuff.
Right on, guys.
You want to why don't we call it some quit?
Yeah, JD's out of here, so yeah. So check out the signature auction coming up in November too. It's got some of the best stuff from Gabe's collection coming up. Yeah. And then yeah, we'll call it a night. Gabe, I appreciate you joining us, man. It's been a blast.
Yeah, thanks so much, and sharing the stories about Kirk and you know when you were young and just getting into this and that excitement of like having that cash and like being able to stick it to those guys where they're like, you don't have the money for this.
Sorry about that.
You don't even know, you don't even know. And then
you and I need to talk about some stuff later on, buddy. I would love to talk to you further.
I apologize about that. I had my Windows updated. Like, well, I don't know why. I'm like, why are you updating now? I guess I had to. But seeing everybody, thank you so much, Gabe, for joining us. We'll definitely probably ask you to come on again if we've got, if another horror collection comes on, you come on again and give us your ups and downs. Check out his auctions on Heritage right now. I can tell you right now that I'm flabbergasted by a bunch of the books that I've seen, but more importantly, I'm more impressed with the man. And I gotta say, Gabe, great stories, great stuff. Good, my pleasure meeting you. Thank you so much. Thank you to DS and Knights as well, and Jeff.
Thank you,
Guru. Thanks, everybody. Let's play that eerie music once again. What do you think?
See you guys later.
Take care, man.
All right, let me get that set up right now really quick. Oh, sorry. It takes a minute when I have to update. It's like, do you? Well, I don't want that, but let's do it. All right, enjoy the scary music.
Thank you for being a friend. Travel down the road, back to